Hello and welcome to Transformation Now, a division of SoaringHigher.rocks. These programs are focused on life and career transformation for you, for your career, for your life, for every part of you. Hi, I'm Rita Rocker Kraft, and as a speaker, international author, and trainer, my heart has always been to help give people tools, techniques, the inspiration and the motivation to excel in all of your relationships, your family, your life. I really get to the heart of things, and so I welcome you today. And today I'd like to talk with you about attitudes that overcome so many things that we've had going on in our lives, and for some of us, not as easy as others. But I'd like to start off with a poem, which maybe sounds a little funny, but that my mom wrote many years ago because my life was pretty much a disaster in every way you could think of. And so she wrote this poem called Metamorphosis. You'd never guess what happened to a little worm one day. Her heart was filled with sadness as she inched along her way. Oh, woe is me, she sadly cried. How drab my life has been. No matter how I've tried and tried, it seems I just can't win. I'm tired of crawling in the mud, of being on the ground. If I could soar through blue skies and walk or run around, I'm sure then I'd be happy and I could laugh and smile. Then joy and peace would come my way and life would be worthwhile. Well, then came a message which was written on the breeze. It seemed to say, be patient and put your heart at ease. Just trust me for your future and let that old self die. Inside that lowly worm, I've put a lovely butterfly. And so as faith took over and possessed her every thought, she kept the vision in her mind of the miracles to be wrought. And daily, never doubting, she drew nearer to her goal. No longer sad, discouraged, her God was in control. With one last mighty struggle for freedom from the past, she burst the bonds asunder that long had held her fast. And with delight that knew no bounds, she soared up towards the sky, enraptured, happy, joyous, a lovely butterfly. And I want to encourage you with that, because no matter how many times we've been put down, my gosh, we all have wings and we can soar and we can fly, and I have some good information on that today. And to start off with, the most important thing a person can wear is confidence. Not expensive clothing, but confidence. The single biggest determining factor as to whether people take us seriously is our opinions of ourselves, our own opinions of ourselves. That affects every area of our life, our self-esteem, our jobs, our careers, our relationships, everything as far as our opinion of ourselves and what's been ingrained in us our entire life. So what does self-esteem have to do with our jobs and our careers and our families and our relationships? Absolutely everything. It not only affects our confidence, which is how we see ourselves and how we believe other people see us, but how we allow people to treat us. And those are all such important keys, but it starts off with a healthy self-esteem and self-confidence. And so it will affect every area of our lives, our careers. Are we doing what we want in our career? Are we settling for something much lower than our career because that's just what we're used to? So this is really important today as we talk about this. We often limit ourselves by the way we think, by how we see ourselves, based on the world, by our past experiences. Now, some of you out there had really awesome pasts and experiences and really got into the things of life, and then others not so much, and it's been difficult. So we get what we expect to see, expect to hear, and expect to experience. So if we have seen our whole lives that all we see is negative things, we see turmoil, we see all that, that's what we will continue to see. That's what we'll get. If we continue to hear negative things that people have said instead of turning that off, being around positive people, listening to positive things, then if we're expecting to hear negative, that's what we'll continue to hear. And I did that a lot of my life. Just experiences. And we have to really turn the table on this and really go, no, I'm not doing these things anymore that are negative experiences for me. And it's a real switch, and I've had to do that from all the abuse and the drugs and the alcohol and the sick things that happened to me all my life, sometimes not even knowing where my next meal was coming from. So I get it, I understand. But if we expect rejection, failure, and discouragement, which I did all my life growing up, that's what we get. We draw those kind of relationships to us and those kind of failures. Maybe we weren't able to reach a goal in the past, and even though we want it with all our heart, we're afraid to try. Why? Because all we've experienced up to this point is rejection, failure, I missed it, so why try anymore? But let's talk about this today, because if we only have the same limiting beliefs rolling around in our minds, that's all we will get, is the same thing. We often determine our worth by the perceptions that we've gotten from other people, and I call those perceptions their lame opinions. Really, it's somebody's opinion. It's not who you really are, and I would encourage you to never let people's opinions of you, their perceptions, drag you down, because a lot of times they want to drag us down to their level. No, we have so much more than that to offer. Could be a label that we've had since childhood. I know I felt like I was worthless, less value than a horse race since I was 5 years old. And so that really put something in me of don't even try, because you're going to fail. You're not worth anything. You're not good relationships. You're not worth getting a great job, all of these things. But that's a lie. It's someone's perception, or it's their problem. Basically, it's their problem, not yours. So, we might have heard, oh, you're shy and you're cute and shy people don't get anywhere. Or guys might hear, you know what, you have to be really tough and hard to be manly man. And honestly, the men that I've seen that had the most strength were not the tough, manly men, no feelings, but the ones who were, could be a tough alpha male on one hand and have the biggest gushy heart on the other hand and be the most powerful and strong men that there are. So never let anything, any misconception from childhood, from a parent, from a teacher, from kids, determine your worth at all. Maybe we feel inadequate to try for a promotion because, well, my gosh, I didn't finish my college, or I don't have the money, I don't have this, I don't have that, I don't have the credentials. But I want to encourage you to nourish your own abilities. I know 4 people I could just think of like that offhand, women who, very successful business owners, making lots of money, having everything they ever wanted, not 1 hour of college. So never let those thoughts tell you, hey, you can't do it, because you can. You can do what you've set your mind to do. And you might think, oh, I'd love this public relations job. I've wanted to do this all my life and meet people and write stories. But gee, I don't have a PR degree. I don't have all of that. But maybe you have the heart, you have the motivation, you have the drive, you love people, you love being engaged in the conversations where someone else is trying for it, may have the degree, may have the experience, but they don't have the personality. And I've seen so many times with companies, they would rather hire someone who has the talent, the drive, the everything that, the desires, and teach them skills, than to hire someone who may have the education, but certainly not the personality, or maybe they show up to work looking like they just got out of bed. So those are the kind of people companies may push back and hire you instead. So never let those things keep you from that goal that you'd really love to have. That is so important. Again, think of somebody else's opinion, and nourish your own abilities, nourish your own qualities. Too much time is spent on looking at what other people have when we think of comparing what we consider our liabilities, those things that we don't have, with someone else's assets, which would be their education, their money, etc. No, you have so many powerful talents and abilities. They might have been stuffed in there for a little while, but now it's time to nurture them and bring them out, to feed them, to water them, to make them grow. So always remember that. And that saying is so true. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always had. And I did that all my life. I wanted my life to change, and yet what am I going to do? I kept doing the same things. No, that's when you start getting out and you start thinking, well, what can I do to change my life so it's not what I've always had? And there's so many things that you can do with educational programs. Get on the internet, look up all the types of things that interest you, start learning. There's a lot of times skills sets tests that you can do on the internet that are free so that you can build up your skills, you can build up your confidence. You can join organizations. If you love animals, you know, volunteer for the zoo. If you love people, it might be things in church and ministry, or it could be any kind of professional organization. Join. And if it's like, well, gosh, I'm so scared, I don't know what to do, I don't know how to talk to people, then volunteer for a committee and maybe be the greeter at the door. That'll really break open some areas for you as you greet people, and then all of a sudden you're not so self-conscious because the attention is on them. And that is so powerful, and I've done that myself. So start looking for ways that you can break out. You can go talk to really confident, positive people who will help you and not push you back. You know, years ago I read an article that I absolutely love, and it's about knocking down barriers that keep us from reaching our goals. And it was about a barracuda and a mackerel. Okay, it's like, what? Well, researchers put the two in a glass tank with a glass partition in between. Now, the mackerel happens to be the barracuda's favorite dining treat. And so for 2 days, they watched this barracuda bang its nose constantly, smashing his little nose against that glass because the barracuda wanted the mackerel for dinner. Okay, so after 2 days, the barracuda gave up. So what happened? They pulled up the glass, and guess what? What happened? Nothing. Why? Because in that barracuda's little fish brain, it couldn't have it, even though it was right there for it to take. And so many times that happens to us. We try, and it's like, oh, this is never going to happen, so I give up. And so often when we do give up, it's right before we have our breakthrough. A lot of people are experiencing that right now. And I would just really encourage you, don't give up, no matter how long it's been. I have things I've been waiting for literally 20 and 30 years, but I know they're coming, so I'm going to keep up. I remember when I was Mrs. Nebraska, and my husband died during my term right after Mrs. America, and a month later I was speaking at a women's retreat. It was a large retreat, and these two women came up to me afterwards, and they said, well, your message wasn't at all what we expected. And I said, well, what were you expecting? And they said, oh, you know, talking about the pageant and all that kind of thing. And I said, no. I said, my intention, my goal is to always talk to people about every time they fall down, every time something terrible has happened, and that was really a horrible time in my life. We get up, we dust our knees off, and we get back in the race. We get up, dust our knees off, get back to the race. We get up, dust our knees off, and get back in the race. And for a lot of you out there, it happened over and over and over again, like it did me. But that's what we do, and that's always the most important thing. Sometimes when I would give my testimony, when I would go out and speak to groups, and I bared a lot of ugly things that I wouldn't necessarily want people to know. However, when I did that, it always hit people. One time a girl in high school thanked me after I spoke to the group, and that was on business communications, professional image, and things like that, getting ready for the working world. And she said, thank you so much. I was ready to commit suicide. But because of what you said and how you encouraged us, I realized I can go forward. Well, that has hit me to this day, and that was about 20 years ago. And when two young ladies came up to me one time and said, thank you so much for your message, and because I really had revealed my soul. And I said, why? What's going on? And she said, our husbands are both in jail for dealing drugs. But you've given us hope to keep going on, that life will go forward, things will change. And I said, oh, thank you, God, for that. So think about how many times that you maybe have put up partitions in your life and reasons for why something cannot be done. I'm too old, I lack the education, I don't have the money, I don't have the clothes, I don't have the looks. Well, I'll tell you what, I've seen people dress very professionally, very sharp, strictly on goodwill. Okay, so we can't be using those as excuses. So many times we limit in our own minds, and I did most of my life, what we can achieve. We're the ones that limit ourselves. Yes, people might hold us down. We need to get rid of those relationships. People can do a lot of things, but it's up to us to go forward. And I'm going to share with you a few examples because I think these are so important that, A, we can do just about anything we want to do, that we need to do. One is, I love to watch America's Got Talent. I've watched Britain's Got Talent, and wow. You see some life-changing things from people coming over from foreign countries who have been pretty much ground into the ground. And yet, once they're on there, they took that step, they worked hard, they got on there, they were brave, they did it afraid, and oh, now they're traveling, they're supporting their families, they're doing things that never were possible before. And I remember when Susan Boyle, which a lot of you probably remember, and she came out in Britain's Got Talent, and she did not look very good, and they were all rolling their eyes and kind of mocking her, and once she opened her mouth, it was like, oh my gosh. And she was this quiet woman in this tiny town, and yet she went out there and was brave, and because of that and the kind of the mocking that they did towards the beginning, she won. And then I think of Bob Wieland, who was a veteran in the Vietnam War, and his legs were blown off, and he had no legs clear up to the hip. And so he decided that he was going to show people, hey, I can do it, I can still live this life. I'm not going to sit in a room the rest of my life, feel sorry for myself. So he built up his upper body, he had massive arms, and he entered an international weightlifting championship, and he won. But guess what? They took his title away from him. Why? Because he was not wearing regulation clothing, which included shoes. The man had no legs. I cried. I watched this. So what did he do? He said, no, they're not going to get me down. So he had things built for his hands and the trunk of his body, and he literally swung himself back and forth, walking across America, kind of whatever direction he took. Took 2 years to do that. Why? Because he wanted to show people you can do whatever you set your mind to do. And he also used it as an opportunity to raise money for hungry children. Wow. And sometimes like, oh, I don't want to go to the, I don't want to go into McDonald's. I'll just go through the drive-thru because I don't feel like it. Well, I think of Bob Wieland then. I remember seeing Korea's Got Talent one time, watched it on Facebook, and this kid was like 14 years old. He was homeless. He was caught actually sleeping in the stairwell at the school. And then somebody tried to take him under their wings the best they could. He won Korea's Got Talent because he had the most phenomenal talent, but here the poor kid was homeless. I've seen several cases of people who had no arms and or no legs, driving cars, a lady who had a baby, she had no arms, she showed her driving a car. I've seen several guitar players driving a car. One Chinese lady had her arm, she didn't even have a shoulder to put a prosthetic arm on, and she's playing the violin, incredible, and just unbelievably incredible what she did playing the violin, how she moved her shoulder around to actually maneuver the bow. Okay, are you starting to see? We don't necessarily need to have everything that everybody else has. Walt Disney grew up very poor. He and his brother were forced to get up in the dark, go feed the cows or whatever they were doing, milking the cows. Even in the winter, one pair of shoes with holes in them, they froze. And yet his whole desire, even later on when nobody would support him or help at first financially, was to help people go somewhere where they could live a great, happy life. But his didn't start out that way. His was really rough. So for those of us who've had that, there's so many things like that. America's Got Talent, another one, was a guy that came on and he had his baseball cap on backwards. He just had an old sweater on. He said he was a chicken catcher. So everybody's going, oh yeah, right. What's he going to do? And he ended up winning the $1 million prize because he had such a beautiful voice and he could play his guitar. So again, you all have talents. Don't let, because maybe chicken catcher at the moment. And one last example, and I loved this, and I'll never forget this. Several years ago, there was a Miss Teen America pageant. There was a girl, she was 16 years old, homeless. A lady took her in, she was her foster mom. She had her enter the pageant for the state. So then the girl, 16 years old, entered the Miss Teen USA pageant with a $39 dress they got on discount, kind of tried to dress it up a little bit, compared to the girls that had the, several $100 evening gowns. And guess what? This little girl with a foster mom and a $39 gown won Miss Teen America. And I think that is so awesome. So don't let anything hold you down that might be trying to tell you, hey, no, you can't do that. So we don't want to look at those excuses anymore. Those are gone. Those are done. We compare ourselves so many times to other people, and like I said, you don't have liabilities or assets, whatever, with theirs. Focus and concentrate and feed your own talents and abilities, and don't spend any more time nourishing or envying their abilities. Now, obviously, we want to help our kids and other people we know nourish their abilities too. But don't focus on what other people have. Focus on you and grow and grow and grow and learn. You know, our value, again, like I said, is so tied up so often in our bank account, what we look like, what we're wearing, and all that kind of thing. But never cut yourself short. You know, I used to think, because for years I was a secretary and then it went to admin assistant, you know, all that title, and it's like, oh, I'm just a secretary. No, I mean, most of the admins, they're multitaskers, they're problem solvers, they have to have technical skills. A lot of times they have to be mediators. They have to put up with so many different temperaments and all this work coming in from everywhere. So there's never a just about anything. You do the best you can in the job that you have and work towards something else if that's your desire, or maybe you're happy where you are. So always think, well, I am going to respond to people the way I expect to be treated, not the way they think I can be treated. And I used to go through a lot of abusive situations, and then finally I woke up one day and go, hey, I'm God's daughter. I don't deserve that. I'm not going to go through that. I'm not going to allow people to treat me that way anymore. And we can all do that. And so you're very valuable, very, very valuable, and never forget that. You're God's kids. And I asked God very quietly, I said, please show me what I look like through your eyes, because what I see, I don't like. I don't feel like I have anything, I'm worth anything. And he will show you if you quietly sit and let him talk to you how you look through his eyes. And that's who you really are. That's who you really are in life. You know, there's also that word that says, if we expect to fail, we fail. Why? Because that's what we expect. You know, and so we always have to be careful about that. He who aims at nothing will surely hit it every time. Whoa, okay, what are you aiming at? TV all night? Or maybe getting on the internet and the computer for a little bit and studying some good things? So that's very, very important. We all have many untapped resources, things that we have inside, not just education and all that, but so many things inside. You know, we could be good housekeepers. We could have a lot of determination. We're good at problem solving. We're good at being a mediator between the kids and other people like that. So think of all those skills that you have. And then, you know, I talked earlier, started out with the Metamorphosis poem of Butterfly. And when we see a butterfly, oh, they're beautiful and they're strong and they can soar and they can do all kinds of things. But they started out as this little gross-looking little caterpillar. And so we think, okay, now they're going to go through their metamorphosis, which means a striking change in appearance, character, or circumstances, usually by supernatural means. That's what Webster's dictionary says. Okay, so it starts out, believe it or not, I was so shocked, because when you see this little caterpillar, when it's getting ready to go through its metamorphosis, it turns, the insides of that turn into a goo, like tar, goo, just goo, okay? And a lot of times we feel like we're just broken down to a bunch of goo, and we don't have anything to offer. And yet inside the membrane, our wings, our legs, our feelers, everything that butterfly needs is there, but it's kind of squished up against the membrane, and all there is goo. So this poor little thing has to struggle and struggle and struggle, and finally, the legs come out, the wings come up, and it rises. So be encouraged, even if you feel like a pile of goo right now. There's all this power in you. There's so much in you. You should just let it come out. And so a lot of times we have to work through that, and it's not necessarily easy. I love the story of the pearl. And, you know, you think of, here's this little oyster, and it's just in a dry little, or not dry, but a dark place, okay? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's this paint in here. What is this? It's a piece of sand, and this piece of sand is grating on the inside of the oyster, and it hurts. And so what does the oyster do? The oyster starts exuding and putting out this pearly liquid to coat it so it won't hurt anymore. Okay, and so a lot of times that's what we have to do. We have to get away from someone. We have to get away from something. We have to do something different in order to not have that pain anymore, something that's grating against us. And so this little thing keeps doing it and keeps doing it and keeps doing it until pretty soon you have this pearl. But then what happens after it's all coated? Okay, there's this little thing that holds the two shells together, and it's called an adductor muscle. So it has to be cut. And sometimes cutting away something from us might be painful, just briefly. But then look, beautiful pearls. What did they do? they didn't hide. They actually took the steps necessary to transform into beautiful pearls and coated that sand until it no longer hurt. So I want to encourage you with that. And just think, today's a new beginning, not when you're 20 pounds lighter, not when you have a new car, not like when you're married like an ex-spouse or anything like that. Today is a new day if you decide to make it a new day. Isaiah 43:18, and the word says, forget the former things and don't lean on the past. See, I'm doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I'm making springs in the desert and a way in the wasteland. So if you feel like you're in a wasteland right now, just know there's springs out there. There's new things coming up, just like that pearl. Now it's beautiful. And so I really want to encourage you with that. Think about flowers. Flowers are beautiful, but when we get a packet of flower seeds and we open it up, it's like, ugh, here's these little shriveled up brown things, don't look like anything. You water them, you feed them, and you let them grow into something strong, and that's what we need to do. And so just in ending, I want to say, those bad days are over now, okay? Tell yourself that. It's over as of today. So again, ask God quietly what he sees you as, what his plan for your life is, because he has an awesome plan for every one of you. Every one of you. Don't exclude yourself no matter what has happened in your life. And see through his eyes. Make this your day for a new beginning. And so when a negative thought comes to you, which I still fight all the time, immediately stop it and turning around. If it says you're ugly, you're fat, you're stupid, you're poor, you're whatever, no. I'm a beautiful child of God. I'm strong. I'm creative. And I'm going forward. Take a hike, negative thought. And again, go for those classes, go for those strong people, go for positive people, positive experiences. You can find them. They're out there. I've prayed several times when I had to find new friends. God has always been faithful to give me new friends. And he will do the same for you and turn your life around if you just give him the chance. And so I just want to say thank you so much. Next 2 times, we're going to be talking about mastering your business and professional etiquette and communication skills to rise above the competition. So God bless you. Thank you. And I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye.